Hey guys, you're John coming at you with another Diablo Immortal video. This one I do want to talk about because the date of when you can actually farm higher Paragon levels is fast upon us. So I want to talk about where should you actually be farming? Why should you be farming it? And is it okay to go back on different health difficulties, or do you need to always be pushing forward? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make this video because I want you guys to understand that sometimes it's kind of hard to progress into different hell modes, and I think everyone's aware of this. I also believe that there's also been content made in the past since launching of Diablo Immortal, where content creators have kind of got this a little confused, and I want to make sure to clarify it because I don't want anyone to waste their time. Now, when I say that, what am I talking about? Notice that when you are in West March, you can select the hell difficulty that you are doing, right? So notice that I can go ahead and I click this and I can select hell 4, I can select hell 5, I can select, well, that's it, right? Hell 5 is going to be one of the longest ones. Obviously, I'm assuming when we get the September update that they're going to add more of these hell levels. They need to, unless they just plan on riding it out for a little while. But I highly doubt it, right? So you start on normal as a beginner. By hell 1, you're kind of getting your Ivanpod's Sanctum, you're getting those vessels. Your hell 2 is pretty quick to get into. Hell 3 is where a lot of people are kind of living a little bit. And then most of us have transitioned into hell 4. Now, what is the caveat on doing this transition? What do you need to be aware of? And what stats do you need to do this, right? So you need to take a look at this and say, okay, if you hit the little eye here, it'll tell you this is the recommended combat rating. Now, where does this number come in place from? So notice that this one's 2120. And here on hell 4, it is 3250. Now, where does that kind of come in play? So if you look at your character, right, the reason why you're looking at those numbers is because notice that I am 1330 higher on my combat rating, and that's about the difference, right? That's where we get that 3250, right? Isn't that what it said? So notice that's where it tells me I'm above it. So this means I'm not going to be negatively impacted by farming in this location. So that's one thing to note here when you're looking at this, because notice it says 3250. The reason why they give you this recommended combat rating is because that sets the bar of which Paragon level you're at. So for example, if I were to go to a lower Paragon level, that means I would get even more of a bonus percentage of stats increased, right? So in theory, would it be better for me to go to a lower lower hell difficulty to farm for my gear and my legendaries? Absolutely not. And the reason being is because they've already mapped out pretty well as far as what your combat rating needs to be for these locations. And notice that they've gotten the gap overlay here, right? So we have 30 to 130, we have 80 to 210. Notice that there is a 50 level gap there. And now we have about a 60 level gap from hell 3 to hell 4. And then another 60 level gap between hell 4 and hell 5. The reason why they're doing this is because they cap gear at a certain level. So I want you to notice something. So let's look at some of my gear here. Now, if I look at, let's go find one of my lower scoring pieces of gear here, which is going to be maybe my shoulders. Yes, my shoulders are the lowest scoring. Now, when we look at these, notice the stats on them, right? This is only a 2-statter. This is 120, 120, which isn't bad as far as stats go. Like 120 is good. Really, they should have a third stat though that is at 120. Now, I also have, if I move out of the way and I move my chair a little bit out of the way here, you can see that I also have my 2 magic stats here. Not terrible once again. But the thing that I'm pointing out here is the fact that the attributes are at 120s, right? If I come down here and I say this one is at the 99 here. Now let's go see what level was this piece of gear when I found it. I was at level 160, right? I'm at 193 now. So this was 33 levels ago. And the base numbers are about 101. Now, if we go to this one, which is a lower combat rating, this was 165. Notice this was a little bit higher. If we keep going up and up, you'll see that, okay, actually this is an older one, perfect. And notice how small these attribute stats are. The reason why this one's really good is because it has the crit chance here and primary attack damage, which is super impactful. That's why the score is a little bit higher than the other one, right? And it's triple stat. But notice that this one is at 150. So how does that translate with your hell level? So at hell level 150, this would be a very base stat for 4. And that's honestly probably what I did, is I probably came into hell 4, farmed that piece of gear, and then I was able to equip it when I unlocked it, right? The reason why we did that is because it had a higher threshold of stats than it would be if I were to go farm health 3. So for example, if I were to go farm health 3 right now, the maximum level of gear that I'll get is 210. Now, also, with that being said, there's going to be a range of the stats for the attributes that actually gets dropped. So you may not always get, so even let's say you get a level 210 drop, right? Like say you get your character to level 210, you go and you farm health 3, will you get the same stat drops? You will not get the same attribute drop percentage. Those are capped for each individual health tier. So you definitely need to be aware of this and be conscious of this when you're trying to farm. So it's always advantageous for you to come over here and push to the highest health difficulty that you can. Now, there's always that awkward transition from going from 3 to 4. It never fails. I'm what some would consider a whale, and even I can draw that line, right? Like notice, for example, health 5 here is 5,025. I'm about 500 under that right now, currently. Yeah, about 500 under that. So I should not be going into health 5. However, I can go, and I have gone into health 5 and farmed a little bit. So what I'm going to do, for example, is I have a bunch of these pieces of gear here. So this was me farming all day yesterday. I have a bunch of legendaries here. What I'm going to do is on another video, I'm going to open all of these. I'm going to identify them, and then I'm going to stash them. So that way I can show as proof of the pudding. Like I know these were all categorized and found in health 4. So now that health 5 is going to be right around the corner, because honestly, like when you think about at what point should you be transitioning, look at the Paragon level. So it's Paragon level 240, right? So if Paragon level is 240 and the current server is 194, if we bring up our calculator, so 240 minus 194 divided by 2. So in the next 23 days, which is right before the September big release, mind you, we will be into health 5 as far as a server Paragon goes. Right, that'll be the base of the 240. So at that point, you should be able to enter into health 5, which means that you got to get the gear ready to do this, right? And more than likely, people are going to be well in there beforehand, right? Because who's going to wait 23 days for it when they can push up? I know I've seen people already at 200. There's people who are going 7, 10, 15 levels above server Paragon, and that's totally fine. And if that's what you want to do, then you go for it. But the reason why we're bringing this up is because this kind of sets the bar of where you should be when you go ahead and you farm in the different health tiers. But the biggest thing that I want to note is do not farm old health tiers and hopes that you're going to get better gear. Now, if you are someone who is stuck, okay, let's talk about those who are stuck and they cannot go any further. They're like, man, I'm stuck in health 3. Health 4 is so hard. It's such a drag. There's some advice I have for you. So you're going to be stuck in health 3, so it's going to be hard for you to progress that, right? So there's things like you could ask in world chat, like, hey, can I get a carry through dungeons? That'll help you, right? Can I get some help on open world farming? There are ways where if you make some friends or work with your guild, that you can progress a little further. Now, if you're a free-to-play player and you can't do this, let's say nobody wants to work with you. Let's say you're just on your own, you can't do anything, and it's just rough in the streets, right? One thing that I recommend is you take a look at your build. So one thing that I would do when going into a new hell difficulty, and honestly what I'm going to probably do because I'm going to be starting to switch into hell 5 here within the next 4 or 5 days. What I'm going to end up doing for my character is I'm going to switch my build around. Right now I am focused on damage, right? I have armor penetration here. I don't have any armor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip flop. I'm going to go survivability. I'm going to go and I'm going to grab all the life that I can out of all these. I'm going to keep my resistance, but all these red ones here, these are all going to go to rubies and they're going to be life. I'm going to focus more on getting all the life stats I can to increase my HP. And yes, that will lower my amount of damage, but that gives me a little bit more of the survivability, so that way I can do just a little bit of open world farming. Because as you keep doing this and as you keep growing as a character, what's going to happen is eventually it's going to normalize. You're going to get the XP, you're going to keep getting up in combat rating, because every time you upgrade, you get up higher and higher and higher, right? Your stats will go with you, and eventually it'll normalize and it'll become easy. And at that point, you can go ahead and you can swap back into using all of your damage, okay? That would be my best advice for you as a free-to-play player or as a low-spin player, is if you are struggling progressing into the next hell loop, go ahead, upgrade your normal gyms, get them all laid out properly to where you can have the life. It's definitely worth the investment. That's why I always tell everyone to kind of hold on to a set of each. That's because you want to be able to have that swappability. Now, when we do get to Hell 5, this is going to be a super long Hell 5 act, right? Notice that this one was 150, and then notice that here, this is going to be 360 levels on Hell 5. So this is going to be kind of it for almost, what is that going to be? So let's do some more quick math here. So if we say 240 minus 600, right? That's going to be a grand total of 360. And if we divide that by 2, you're going to be looking at about 180 days on Hell 5. So 180 days divided by 30, you're looking at, how many months is this? About 6 months. And then we'll go ahead and we'll subtract 60 levels, which is 1 month, right? So we're looking at about 5 months on Hell 5 before you start pushing into Hell 6 when they release that. So this one is going to be super long. So it's going to be super advantageous for you to hold out, make sure you're kind of getting yourself solid, getting your solid base, right? To get ready to push into Hell 5, because this is going to be the longest segment that we're going to be in a Hell level. So it's definitely not worth it to go ahead and push your Hell 3 because it's a 130-day span or 130 level span, which is really a 65-day span. Notice that here you get into a 75-day span. Like, that's kind of the way you want to look at this. So you always want to push it up higher because the stats as well are also going to get higher and higher and higher because they are capped at different levels versus the other Hell tiers. Hopefully this explains the Hell system a little bit to you, so that way you know where you should be farming and how you should be progressing, what you should be pursuing. If it did, please like and subscribe down below, leave a comment. If it didn't, let me know why. Let me know what you would have said or done differently. What have you noticed yourself? Because I can tell you, when I've identified going from 3 to 4, the stats, they vary greatly. So definitely keep that in mind and don't get hoodwinked, guys. All right, that's gonna do it for me. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.